Hi and welcome back to today's presentation. In research and epidemiology, we are going to discuss the sampling methods and we're also going to discuss the pilot study as a bonus part. So in today's presentation, we're going to begin with discussing what is contained under non-probability sampling methods and probability sampling method. So we're going to begin with non-probability sampling method, where we have convenience sampling, quarter sampling, and also purposeful sampling. So we're going to begin with purposeful sampling. So in looking at purposeful sampling, it is also known as judgmental sampling. So this method is based on the belief that the researcher has adequate knowledge of the study population enough to handpick the units to be included in the sample. In order to achieve the main objective, the researcher may on purpose decide to select the widest possible variety of respondents or subjects believed to be typical of the study population. In purposeful sampling, personal judgments need to be used in order to choose cases that help answer research questions or achieve research objectives. Let us now look at our next part under non-probability sampling. So quarter sampling, this is a non-probability sampling technique in which researchers look for specific characteristics in their respondents and then take a tailored sample that is proportion to a population of interest. So under this sampling method, this is done in order to ensure that a certain number of sample units from different categories with specific characteristics appears in the sample so that all characteristics are represented. The last one under non-probability sampling is the convenience sampling. So in this method, we are saying samples or participants are chosen based on the availability or the time in which you're doing data collection, and are then selected in simply based on convenience sake. The limitation of this method is that the sample may not be representative of the population you want to study. Let us look at our next set of objectives, which is the probability sampling. So when you're looking at probability sampling, we have the following. So we have the first one, which is systematic sampling. So under systematic sampling, we are saying individuals are chosen at regular intervals from the sampling frame. So they are basically selected randomly. So you can either choose them randomly to select a number to tell you where to start selecting the individuals from a specified list. Then the next one is the stratified sampling. So this is mainly where the researcher divides the frame into strata or groups or levels, and then a simple random or systematic sample of a predetermined size will then have to be obtained from each group or strata. The third one is cluster sampling. So under cluster sampling, this is a selection of groups of study units instead of selection of study units individually. The fourth one is multi-stage sampling. So under multi-stage sampling, we are using a procedure in which selection is done in phases and usually involves more than one sampling method. So sampling may be done in two or more stages when dealing with large and also diverse populations. The last one, we have simple random sampling. So this is basically the simplest form of probability sampling, and for you to achieve your goals, you need to select simply using a simple random method framework or a list. So you can use a list to guide you selecting your participants. So on your list, you might include a numbered list of all units in the population from which you want to draw a sample from. Then you can also decide on the size of the sample. You can also select the required number of sample units using a lottery method or a table of random numbers. So the simple random sampling method does not ensure that the proportions of individuals with certain characteristics in the sample will be the same as those in the whole study population. So we have come to the end of the methods used in sampling. Let us now look at the other set of objectives, which is the pilot study. So the pilot study is defined as a study carried out or a test where the whole methodology of the study, going through the entire research procedure with a small sample. So it's a sample, or it's a test which is done on a small scale before it is then exposed to a larger scale. Then what are the main reasons why it is important to conduct a pilot study? So number one, to identify potential problems. The next one is to reverse the methods and logistics of data collection before starting the actual field work. The other one is a pretest is simpler and less time consuming. There is also availability of study population. The other one is acceptability of the methods used to establish contact with a study population. The other one is time spent. So you can also determine the time spent to collect the whole information. Then data collection tools can also be pre-tested to determine the level of effectiveness. The other one, you're also able to determine the reactions of the respondents to the research procedure, and can also be observed in the pre-test. Then we also have the other part. We're also going to discuss the advantages of using a self-administered questionnaire. So number one, it is less expensive. Number two, simple methods of obtaining data. Number three, they are a rapid and efficient method of gathering information. Then the other one is may not require research assistance. The other one is analysis and interpretation of data can easily be accomplished. Then we have the other one, which is it is convenient when collecting data, and you also have that interaction with respondents. So this marks the end of today's presentation. Wishing you the very best as you prepare for your upcoming exams and also your future exams. Otherwise, see you in the next presentation. Thank you so much for joining me.